Betfas is the greatest 3.0 Xbow cycle player in the world. With 2 #1 ladder finishes to his name in recent months alone, he's set records that no other players have come close to matching. Today I'll be covering his gameplay during the final hours of Season End ladder that allowed him to reach #1 in the world with 3.0 Xbow. He also played to finish #1 from the #2 spot, but after an unfortunate matchup, ultimately ended up finishing top 10. In spite of recent controversies and hate, Betfas came out on top and finished as the highest 3.0 Xbow cycle player globally for yet another season. You, my subscribers, always love this series and constantly ask me for more, so I'm doing my best to continue delivering. Before we get into it, only a small percentage of people that watch my channel are actually subscribed. If you enjoy the content, especially when I bring on incredible guests like Betfas, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free and it would really help me out. Plus, it lets me know that you guys want to see more videos just like this one. Now, enjoy the video. Alright, we got Betfas versus Pedro, and judging by that starting play, I think I can guess what Pedro's playing. It should be Royal Giant Monk. Betfas responds to the naked fireball with the fireball right back on Pedro's tower, and there's going to be a crazy first match of the video. So today we are watching Betfas playing top ladder during the final hours of Season End. I'll be spectating, commentating, and analyzing his gameplay as he goes for another #1 finish. He's currently the highest Xbow cycle player in the world, above 4,100 medals, and he is on a mission. Betfas does actually have a bone to pick, so to speak, because if you are unfamiliar with the situation, word on the block is Betfas was pushing an Israeli player. He was caught by Supercell, and they responded by permanently banning his main account, which was one of the most decorated accounts in all of Clash Royale. He had 2 #1 ladder finishes on that account, which he achieved both earlier this year, and honestly just an insane number done to Betfas. So he is kind of back on a mission, wants to get his #1 again on his new account, and we'll see if he's able to do it. Gets a nice expo down, but Pedro is back to the monk, and that's just gonna single-handedly take out this entire expo. So Betfas just kind of traded a lot of damage, sacked that entire RG. We do see a nice fireball log on the monk last second, right after the ability wears off, but Pedro responds with an immediate log, and now Betfas is down about 800 damage against RG monk. Never a spot you want to be in. It's honestly going to be a very difficult situation to come back from, but yeah. He definitely does want to go for another #1 because he's not going to be able to recover that account. Again, one of the most decorated accounts in all of Clash Royale. He definitely put in the work. Obviously, I've made videos covering his #1 finishes for those achievements, and he just has to earn them back. Honestly, such a difficult position to be in, but I guess if he actually did push those accounts, then it's against terms of service. It is what it is. But into this situation here, he's going to throw a naked fireball on the tower and immediately go for an expo opposite to that monk. Pedro will have to go for the Evo RG on the bow, and Betfas' goal right now is to go for expos opposite lane to force out RGs while also controlling these monks, hopefully stopping them at the bridge, which he tried just now, to prevent those abilities from coming in and getting on the tower. But unfortunately for Betfas, Pedro kind of catches his bluff and does not actually pop that ability in time, so he waits, and the ability still gets on the tower. Betfas' bridge block was all for nothing. But this situation, he has a Knight and an Evo Archer coming down. The Knight Evo Archer are taking out the skeletons, and the Evo Archer will get directly on the tower. Pedro left shocked with nothing in response, takes about 5-6 power shots on the tower, gets a lot of RG hits in the left, but Betfas kind of utilizing that situation to its fullest, making Pedro split his damage and spread them across both towers. Meanwhile, Betfas has his eyes set on that one right-hand tower, getting an insane counter push with a Knight and Evo Archer. So that kind of situation is exactly what he needed to create some counterplay in this desolate spot, and he will actually be back in this match. But these 2 RGs on the board are going to pose a huge threat for him. He's going to have to find a way to defend both of these. Gets the stacked archers down. They will get fireballed off, but Betfas, I believe, is back. Yes, he is, to the Evo Tesla. Barely gets that down. And now Pedro is the one in a damage deficit. Somehow, some way, the tables have turned, the tides have shifted, and Betfas is the one in control and gets a fireball on that monk, really nicely timed. He does like these fireball cycles in this matchup, and if the opponent, Pedro, will ever go for a monk in the back, in the lane Betfas wants damage in, Betfas will not be afraid to just fireball it straight up. But let's see how he's going to defend this triple elixir onslaught, because Pedro's about to get multiple RGs down in both lanes. Definitely going to abuse that 3-card cycle cycle with the Monk as well. We see a Debo come down, and Pedro already stacks the second RG. We'll get a Monk down in front, and Betfas tries to, block it at the bridge. We get the Knight to bridge block, we get the log as well, but that RG is just walking, heavily pushes that Monk across. Tesla down for Betfas. Pedro will get the fireball off on the tower, but that defensive Expo is putting in work, and Betfas was able to keep the defensive Expo on what was necessary to be targeted. Monk will come down as the Evo Archers are going to be blocked by that, but ability will be forced out early. As you can see, Betfas loves this high bridge play, goes for the Evo Archers high, Tesla high, Knight to bridge block, just likes to block these Monks to prevent as many Monk reflections as possible, not allowing Pedro to get those reflections in. Pedro gets one more fireball down, Betfas is in the lead, Pedro gets the Monk down to predict a fireball, does pop the ability 1 microsecond too late, and just like that, Betfas with an insane victory does come out on top, defeating Pedro in the RG Monk matchup. Honestly, a very difficult matchup against one of the best players in the world with that deck as well. Honestly, insane stuff, and that right there is going to put Betfas at number 2 in the entire world. If you take a look at the leaderboard, number 2 right behind Remy. Betfas is in a game against Eigor, and he is currently playing from the number 2 ladder spot, going for that number 1. It's number 1 or nothing for him, and this is going to be really tough because Eigor, widely regarded to be the second best log bait player in the world, right behind Riley, currently the highest bait player on ladder, and it looks like he is playing classic log bait with the Rocket. I did see Eigor and Betfas play earlier, and Eigor did snipe Betfas with Evo Cannon Rocket. It looks like he has switched to normal classic log bait this time with the Evo Ice Spirit, but I'm pretty sure he does have the Rocket and the Inferno Tower as his last 2 cards, so this is a pretty difficult matchup, and it's going to be pretty tough for Betfas, but knowing him, he's going to find a way to get it done because he has a lot of experience in this, and we're going to see exactly how he's going to tackle this. What I will say from my own experience in this matchup is he's definitely going to want to lean on Fireball Cycle as much as he can, because it's going to be borderline impossible to get an Expo lock when Eigor does have that Rocket, when he has a decently fast cycle with the Knight to tank for the Expo. He does have the Eye Tower as well as a pretty decent option to counter the Expo too, so it's going to be pretty tricky to actually get a lock. You want to go for Expos to force out Rockets, as you can see right here, and then you want to throw Fireballs on the tower once the Rocket is used to further your damage lead. So heading into double right now, and Betfas does have a slight damage lead because that Evo Ice did actually jump. He will go for the E-Spirit and actually take no hits from that barrel, very impressive. And now we see some nice dual lane pressure, Knight, Evo Archer, Expo in one lane, which will force the Rocket out for sure, Evo Archer in the other lane, which will 1v1 the Princess and unfortunately lose as it is outranged, forcing an Evo Tesla by Betfas. And I mean, this is still not looking that great because Betfas really wants to build a solid damage lead. I don't really think there's going to be a realistic way for him to do so, again, without chucking fireballs at the tower, which is exactly what he's going to do. When I play this matchup on top ladder, that's what I like to go for. You see a really nice set of micro interactions by Betfas there. E-Spirit plus well-timed skeletons will full counter a Goblin Barrel, which means you can save your log to use against the Princess or on offense, and also just get around to your cycle much more efficiently. It is a very nice play. As you can see, he does go for the log on the Princess, and you want to keep that in mind for future defenses. I would recommend you guys learn that interaction. It's going to help a lot against classic bait. So Betfas does get the E-Spirit down for that fake barrel and is back to the log for the real side, so the perfect way to counter a Goblin Barrel of the Evolution variety. You want to go E-Spirit on the fake side and log on the real side, and somehow, some way, Eigor did not have Elixir for that gang in time, or his cycle was just messed up and he had to get back to it. So Betfas actually does get a slight Expo lock, and this does not look good for Eigor all of a sudden. Betfas controlled the pace of the game with fireballs, is still doing so. I believe that's the 3rd or even 4th fireball on the tower at this point. I want to say 3rd, and Eigor is suddenly down almost 1,000, but it's still going to be pretty easy for him to come back because Rocket does outdamage fireball pretty significantly, and once it hits triple, the classic logbait player can actually just start throwing rockets on your tower. So Betfas goes for the Expo, and Eigor does get forced to rocket on the bow again, so this is looking good for Betfas, but triple will be tough. What he's going to want to do is most likely just constantly pressure with Expos, throw fireballs here and there, and barely win by a couple hundred maybe. So see another fireball right away, and Eigor is going to start the rocket cycle right about now, exactly as I called it. Betfas immediately keeps the pedal on the metal and goes for the constant pressure. Expo number 1 Coupled with the Evo Tesla, Evo Archers, he aligned both Evos to this push. Ijihu trying not to go for the rocket on this bow, of course just wants to rocket the tower, as he will throw another naked rocket on the tower even though next was on the board. Like I said, it's pretty easy for a classic bait to stall this out, so Betfas really needs to keep this expo pressure coming. We do see a really nice fireball which does hit that Inferno tower. A pre-log on the Goblin Gang 2 does not come down. Good intention, but Ijihu kind of outplayed there. We see E-Spirit Knight for the Goblin Barrel, and one stab does come in. Betfas fireballs the tower again. Rocket for Ijihu. Betfas has to log on offense, and he does. Ice Spirit will come down to stall. Betfas is down damage, but the Goblin Gang does not come down in time. Ijihu was short-sighted, goes for the log first, does not have enough elixir or barely any timing to get the gang down. Betfas with the Omega last-second expo lock. I cannot believe what I just saw. Complete steal at the end of the game. And Betfas should be #1 in the world after that win. Let's take a look. Yes, he's going to be #1 on his profile with 17 minutes left in the season. Let's take a look at the leaderboard as well. Betfas #1, going for that #1 finish. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the game for the #1 finish on ladder. Betfas was #1 with 17 minutes left and was shortly surpassed by ASAF, who is currently in the #1 spot, Betfas being in the #2 spot, as ASAF goes with a drill snowball first play, getting guaranteed damage on the tower. Whoever wins this will be getting the #1 finish. Unfortunately for Betfas, it's going to be a very uphill battle because ASAF is widely regarded as one of the best drill players in the world, and this is also a very bad matchup for Expo because ASAF is most likely playing with Knight, Fireball, and Evo Cannon. I actually did see these two play this matchup, I think, twice in the last few hours of season end, and Betfas did lose both times because it is, again, just a very difficult matchup, especially against a player who knows what he's doing, such as ASAF. So Drill is honestly in a very good spot in the meta right now, and honestly I see a lot of pros complaining about it, wanting it to be nerfed. Of course, myself included, I have talked about Drill directly as well. I think it's just a very strong archetype and just guaranteed damage on the tower. You saw Drill plus Snowball or Drill plus Fireball will clear a path against almost any card. Against 3.0 Xbow cycle, if you go Knight or Archers to counter the Drill, Snowball or Fireball will clear that out of the way no problem, and so you really just have to have perfect micro defense at all times against Drill. I did notice Betfas likes to go for these center expos against Drill, because you saw on the first expo, ASAF did go for a Fireball hitting the tower as well, but with this situation, the Drill player cannot go for a Fireball or a Snowball on the expo and tower as well, just kind of spreading your expo and tower far away from each other so that the opponent's not able to get spell value. It's a pretty smart option, but unfortunately does come at the cost of the opponent being able to easily counter your expo, easier than you would be able to if the expo is played at the bridge, at the river, for example, because in the middle you can just snipe it with a cannon from both sides, you can stall it out, and the entire arena is in sight range. It's just more difficult to break through, but Betfas does like these center expos quite a bit. We see a naked Fireball cycled by Betfas, a Drill plus Fireball by ASAF, perfectly timed log for Betfas, and then Evo Snowball will come down, but Betfas does get that E-Spirit Skellies, and even still, Evo Snowball plus Drill, again, just guaranteed damage, man, and now Betfas, without even really making any mistakes, is suddenly down 1,000. We see a Fireball down on this Expo, Archers will come in to take out the Knight, but ASAF is just kind of stalling the Expo out. You know, Knight low, the cards low, Fireball Snowball on the bow, and that's pretty much a dead Expo with one tick on the tower. That is quite shameful, and that is actually pretty sad to see. Now, Betfas is up a bit of elixir, I want to say, because ASAF did commit a lot on that defense, but again, it's just pretty hard to break through against this situation, and especially because ASAF has the Evo Cannon. If he ever needs, in a pinch, he'll be able to lean on the Evo Cannon. I think what Betfas needs to do is exactly what he's doing right now. He needs to pressure opposite lane so that ASAF cannot get a Fireball down on Betfas' weak side tower, and then he might even need to spell cycle slowly here and there. He does need to abuse his Evo Archers whenever he can, but ASAF does save the Evo Cannon, which will just one-shot the Evo Archer. So Betfas takes his Fireball back. But this is just so tough. He's literally losing in both lanes, and he can't full defend, because if you full defend against Drill, you'll just get outdamaged. You have to break through, and it's so tricky because there's just such little options you have when it comes to Drill defense. Betfas with a perfect set of micro on that Drill, looking very good, but unfortunately it's not going to remedy the fact that he is just down 1,000, you know, and ASAF just going with these nice low troops, stalling the X out instead of worrying about going Knight Cannon at the bridge. Betfas tries to get this dual lane pressure going, gets the Knight at the bridge, but an opposing Knight by ASAF will just take that out, no problem, with the help of the cannon. We will see a Fireball come down with this Expo. barely clearing a path to the tower, but ASAF does get the guards down. He is ready. Very well played by Betfas. He really tried, but there's not a lot you can do when you're in a situation where the opponent just has a lot, but he actually does sneak a lock in right there. Oh my goodness, he's actually in the lead for the first time in over 4 minutes. Evo Tessa down in this drill, but drill plus snowball, fireball, and this is so tough because Betfas is definitely going to be spell cycling same lane, but it just doesn't seem feasible because if you guys didn't know, Log with its recent nerfs actually does do less damage than a snowball as well on the tower. So Betfas with the fireball logs on the tower will actually do less damage than snowball fireballs by ASAF, plus the drill being direct damage on the tower as well. So even though Betfas is still in the lead, it suddenly just disappears, goes away, and even if he does log, E-Spirit does everything at the right time. Night down, perfect micro, and a very heartbreaking event and turn of events. He was not able to do anything in this matchup, honestly. He didn't make, I want to say, any mistakes on defense. It's just impossible to defend Drill, Evo, Snowball. It is such a broken deck against pretty much the best Drill player in the world. That was so heartbreaking to watch, but Betfas will lose the match for his #1 finish, and that is going to essentially be a #1 finish for ASAF. Let's take a look at the leaderboard to see where everyone finished now, because that's basically season end. That's going to be ASAF finishing #1, Betfas drops #9, and that is it. That is the end of the season. Alright, Betfas versus Fan, and Fan is already emoting, giving the well played in the first 30 seconds of the game. This is going to be a good one. So if you guys don't know him, Fan is indisputably the greatest balloon cycle player of the current generation. He does main 2.9 balloon cycle, and him and Betfas do have a bit of story and context, and even beef between them. I don't think it's anything too serious, but Fan is, again, the most talented balloon cycle player right now, without a doubt, and he does not like this matchup one bit. He constantly complains about it. He is not fond of the matchup, and I can see where he's coming from, because I feel like at a low level, it's pretty easy for Xbow. But this is where things get interesting, because I have also seen Fan win against Xbow multiple times, including against Betfas himself. I saw him beat Betfas earlier this season, and I've even seen him beat people like Hunter, who play Icebow, so an even worse matchup, and he still wins. But Fan does think this matchup is 70-30, if not worse, in Xbow's favor for multiple reasons. Number 1 being the Evo Archers, number 2 being the Fireball, and so I think that just kind of tells you all you need to know about the matchup and how you should play it from Xbow's side. But before we get into that, just a bit more about the context. Again, Fan does not like the matchup, and he usually does BM people like Betfas when he wins. I think the last time I saw them play, Fan did BM the living crap out of Betfas, so I think if Betfas does win this one, he will definitely give the BM back. Fan also just, again, I think he BM'd Hunter. I think he just doesn't like the matchup, which is understandable. It's like if you're playing Xbow against Giant Graveyard or Recruits, you just don't like it, right? But on to the matchup and why it's actually that way specifically. We have two things. Number 1, the Evo Archers. The construction of Loon Cycle and its deck over there, as you can see, does not have any way to deal with Evo Archers. They don't have a big spell, they don't have arrows, they don't have any way to get directly on top of Evo Archers except for a well-timed Evo Musketeer snipe, I suppose. So that's what you need to lean on to break through and create offensive connections. Number 2 is the Fireball. You look at Loon Cycle's deck, obviously they don't have a big spell, so their main direct damage source comes from the Miner, and pretty often actually Balloon death damage as well. But otherwise they can't really spell cycle you out. So really nicely timed defense Xbow by Betfas, and really cool Balloon behind the tower by Fan. I really do like that play. Actually, it's pretty cool and creative because it's a different play than just spamming Balloon at the bridge. You're kind of conserving your elixir to build up a bigger push, and Fan is pretty fond of that play. Betfas, really nice patience on that Miner defense, does not go for the Skellies right away. He knows Fan wants to get that pre-snowball in, so Betfas one step ahead, goes for the Skeletons after the snowball, and does get that defense coming in. Now we are entering double elixir time with a pretty, or rather overtime, we've been in double for a while. Overtime, 2 minutes left in the game, with a pretty evenly paced game right now, but Betfas in a very advantageous position, has the Evo Tesla supporting this Xbow, has an Evo Archer staying alive, Miner will come down on defense by Fan, fireballed off by Betfas, and Fan does not, he does get that Barb Barrel down in time, and the bomb, I was going to say he doesn't catch that, but the Knight gets 2 hits on the tower. Fan is defending, but at the cost of 2 Knight hits on his tower. Ice Golem will come down, and honestly the matchup did change a bit with this Ice Golem buff in my opinion. I mean, Ice Golem got a pretty sizable buff. I want to say 8 to 10%, something in that range, so it is pretty noticeable. Really nicely predicted Musketeer by Fan though. We'll get that off on the Expo and does hold that off, but Betfas is in a favorable position for the first time I've seen him in this matchup in a while. Usually Fan has all the momentum going forward, but now Betfas definitely has it going in because he is up about 600 or the equivalent of 2 fireballs, and he's just going to try and defend while spell cycling this one out. So defensive Expo in the right, pre-Tesla in the left, and this kind of fortress is pretty impenetrable by Fan. Really nice. Knight does predict that Evo Musketeer, and it's going to protect the Tesla, keep it alive, as Betfas just chucks a fireball and keeps his lead going. Evo Archer's in cycle for Betfas, that will do a great job at getting some power shots on the balloon, immediately DPSing it down, death damage nowhere close to the tower, Expo is still alive, and you can see the emotes already coming in, both players giving their share. Fan with the good luck, Betfas with the crying little prince. Honestly, one of the most annoying emotes in the game, I have to say. Fan with a miner comes in. This new pair of archers stacked for Betfas though, and a new Tesla as well. So only 10 seconds left, another fireball, and Betfas did a great job of maintaining the damage lead the entire time through triple. Just again, good spell cycle. He was, I think, up 600, and now he ends up 1000, so he did actually come out on top. Really nice defense, constant BM coming in like I said, and that was a pretty great game against, again, the best balloon cycle player in the world. That's going to put Betfas at number 4 in the entire world. Very amazing performance. We've got some big names going on here. Betfas versus Eigor. Eigor, the #1 Retro Royale finisher on Retro Ladder, and also one of the most talented players in all of Clash Royale history. This is going to be a good one. Looks like he's playing some kind of bait deck. If I had to take a guess, I would say most likely Mortar bait, because Eigor is known for playing Mortar. I don't see any reason why it would be different right now. Deck definitely looks like a Mortar deck with the Evo Scaly Barrel, Dark Alban Cannon Cart so far. Betfas immediately goes with the defensive Expo, which is actually a good play if you know it's a Mortar deck, because Mortar bait, one of the matchups where you actually do want to spam defensive Expos. Now Eigor does get the fireball down, and that's going to be interesting because he does actually have a big spell. Usually Mortar bait decks in this meta don't run a big spell, they usually have just arrows in my experience. Sometimes I have seen Fireball Barb Barrel or Poison Barb Barrel, but that's a bit rare. But I guess Eigor just made his own deck over here. I would not be surprised to see the Mortar come out later as well, and I think if he has a Skeleton Barrel, it shouldn't be Miner, but he could have both. It could also just be a Miner or Skeleton Barrel deck. Instead of the Mortar, let's take a look as the match progresses, but so far Eigor with a decent lead just because he gets a free Fireball on the Debo. Unfortunately, Time Skeletons on the Dark Goblin, and a rare micro misstep for Betfas, so one Dark Goblin bullet, I guess if you could call it, does get on the tower as well. Evo Archers do come down to melt this Mortar. Something very interesting I've just noticed, so Eigor is playing with the Evo Bats and not the Evo Mortar, and that's actually going to be pretty huge for helping Betfas out, because Evo Mortar is definitely a force to be reckoned with. As an Expo player, you always, without a doubt, have to overcommit on the Evo Mortar, speaking from experience. But Eigor, very interestingly, choosing to play with the Evo Bats instead. I wonder why. Maybe something about the meta right now just makes him want to play with the Evo Bats instead of the Evo Mortar, but that being said, that'll definitely benefit Betfas. Very interestingly, he does go for the Fireball cycle on the normal Mortar. I think that is a good play against Evo Mortar. You want to Fireball log it and get the tower damage too, but normal Mortar, I don't see that very often. Betfas will choose to get that Fireball off, and he does actually kind of recover getting back here. Fireball forced out again on those Evo Bats, and the Cannon Cart actually pretty good value to be fair. And he is abusing his archers as much as he can because Eigor does not have the arrows. Very effective, but here, that Evo Skeleton Barrel, but oh my goodness, one archer staying alive, coming in insanely clutch for Betfas, and that is a really nice defense. So I think in this game, it's pretty much going to come down to spell cycle no matter what. I mean, you look at Igor's deck, there's no realistic way Betfas is ever going to break through, right? I mean, Eigor has a super fast cycle with the Skeleton's Bats. He does have the Mortar on defense. He has a Cannon Cart and a Dark Goblin, and of course the Evo Scaly Barrel, which is a great Expo counter, and the Barb Barrel, which is also very useful too. So it's actually going to be tough. But right here, we do see Eigor actually committing a bit too much on offense, and maybe Betfas can make something happen here. Fireball comes down by Eigor, and Betfas will definitely keep the foot on the gas right here. I think he should be going in again pretty soon because Eigor should be down right now. Nice archers for Betfas on that Skeleton Barrel, but one Skeleton skeleton hit does come down, Betfas needs to make something happen. Xbow comes in, knight to break the cannon cart, but the problem is, if you go for those predictions, the opponent can just kind of stall it out and go for the cannon cart late. And right here we see an Evo Scaly Barrel coming down. Betfas gets the archers down, but will take that huge Evo Skeleton Barrel damage, but Log will come down and Eigor has no elixir to get the cannon cart down in time. So Dark Goblin comes down late, but that offensive sequence by Betfas, I guess he knew exactly what he needed to do. You know, I thought it was going to be a spell cycle game, but I guess Betfas decided that he needed to get a lock in this match, and that's exactly what he did. Even though he took quite a lot of damage from the Evo Skeleton Barrel, he got even more from his own Xbow offense, and he just counted Eigor's elixir and cycle perfectly to get that punish in. So Fireball forced out on the Debo, and a naked Fireball back on Eigor's tower just to accentuate Betfas' damage lead. Now all he needs to do is sit back and play perfect defense, which I think should be pretty easy. That cannon cart is actually screwing Eigor over big time. I don't think that was intentional. You know, that second stage cannon cart, when it's a building, it actually does end up pushing that mortar back. That is not what Eigor was looking for, and that mortar is effectively useless as Betfas just gets another Fireball on the tower. Now he is up 1,000, and all he really has to do is just defend well and get one more Fireball. He doesn't even need it, honestly. Eigor can get 2 Fireballs, and he still won't come close to Betfas' damage. It also does help that Eigor has the Bar Barrel, not the Log, and also no Miner, so he does lack a pretty significant amount of direct tower damage. So again, provided you can defend perfectly, Xbow can definitely spell cycle this out, and that's why I said that earlier. But that being said, Betfas playing an amazing game, know exactly when to choose his spots against, again, one of the most talented players in all of Clash history. Great win against Eigor with his homemade mortar bait deck. Alright, our next opponent is going to be Adriel, and this is going to be a big one as well, because if you want to talk about talent, Adriel's name has to come up. He has competed in so many of the CRL monthly finals and monthly qualifiers, and I believe he's actually the current leading person in points for CRL. I think last year he was also the one who just barely missed the cut for Riley to qualify to World Finals when it could have been one of both of them, so definitely going to be an amazing player in his own right, and looks like he is playing the more traditional mortar bait deck with the cannon cart, with the Ice Wizard arrows should come in as well, and this is going to be pretty tough because this matchup is definitely slightly for Xbow, I want to say, but it is so chokeable in so many ways because they have so much pressure. It's unbelievable. The Evo Scaly Barrel being one of the best Evos in the game right now just because it does so much damage for only 3 elixir. Just insurmountable pressure. And then you have to think about the fact that they do have a Skeleton King. They can get that 3-card cycle going. And he does have the Evo Mortar, which is great at pressuring as well. This is just honestly not going to be easy against a player of Adriel's caliber. What I do have to say as well, on the contrary side of it, is that Betfas, I do have to say, is one of the most consistent players I've ever seen at the mortar bait matchup. I mean, even when people were playing with Fireball, Log, Cannon Cart, Miner, Betfas was winning this constantly, so I do want to see exactly how he plays this matchup because this is the new current best mortar bait deck in the meta. Many people on Twitter would even say this is the most boosted deck in the meta, and you definitely have to know how to play against this matchup if you are a 3.0 Xbow player. So Adriel does get that mortar out on defense, which means his next one will be evolved. Betfas with a split Evo Archers, nice call because, you know, Adriel can't really exactly go for arrows on both, so he's just kind of forced to let them go, and I guess he could activate the king by arrowsing both. Some players do that, such as recruits players, but probably not worth it in this situation. Evo Tesla forced out by that Evo Scaly Barrel, and this honestly looks like a pretty tough spot for Betfas. Fully charged up Skeleton King on the right, backed by a Cannon Cart, and Evo Mortar just sitting in Adriel's hand, ready to be played for some crazy offensive pressure. We also have an insane split Goblin Gang with the Goblin Gang plus Spear Goblin split. That is a crazy custom troop, I want to say. The double Goblin Gang. And Adriel just keeping the pressure up, Skelly King at the bridge, ability popped, Log will be forced, but one skeleton does come free, and Eastbert will be forced out too. But honestly, Betfas is doing a great job at defending and holding off on all the pressure. Adriel also being very patient, not going for his Evo Mortar yet, and Betfas with the first Expo of the game, almost 3 minutes into the match. Pretty interesting if you think about it, because I would say this matchup is one that you really do want to lean on defensive Expos for. You know, I would say this is definitely a prime specimen example of a matchup that you want to just spam defensive Expos because you just can't break through no matter what you do. Betfas does get the first Expo down, but 3 minutes into the match, I guess that just tells you he's willing to be patient here. Scaling ability will come down, Log comes down on the Goblin Gang, Fireball on the Evo Skelly Barrel, and then he's going to have to respond to it as well. And now Adriel keeping the pressure piling on. Esport will distract, but can he defend this Evo Mortar? Mortar's locked onto the tower. Oh no, what's he going to... Okay, he does have the Evo Teslas. Like, what's he going to do? Is he just dead? Because that... If the Evo Mortar locks onto your tower, that is one of the most desolate spots you can ever be in this matchup. I mean, that's literally the only play Betfas had to recover, and he was able to get that done. So, pretty nicely timed, you know, save the Evo Tesla for the Evo Mortar. Adriel just sat on that Evo Mortar for a long time and was able to pressure at the right time. Honestly, the pressure by Adriel has been crazy. He is winning in both lanes right now, but this is where the spells come into play, because Betfas does have that Fireball. We might see one on that cannon cart right now, matter of fact. No, we don't. Betfas being extremely patient, actually, but Adriel only has the arrows, and a naked Fireball does come down now for Betfas, although one spear does get on the tower, so Betfas still in the damage deficit by 8 HP. What an interesting number, but yeah. Spell cycle, definitely the name of the game in this matchup, because what you have to do is go for those spells and just get the damage through your fireballs, because you're just not going to break through with the Xbow in this matchup unless a Mortar player makes a mistake. So a defensive Xbow with 25 seconds left on the clock, and I think that's honestly going to wrap it up, because unless Betfas makes a major mistake, this should be game. He doesn't have to get a Tesla down for that Skelly Barrel. He does. Really nicely placed to get that double pulse on both forms, and that's going to be another Fireball. Another log for Betfas, and Adriel just cannot break through. Honestly, very close match. I have to say Adriel played a great game as well, but this is why, if played perfectly, this is a decent matchup for Xbow. I would say maybe like a 60-40, and again, Betfas very good at the matchup too, so showing exactly how it's done. Watch that back and take notes of the defense, because again, that is the best Mortar Bait deck in the meta, and one that you have to know the matchup for. Betfas versus Issei, and Issei is playing Ram Rider Bridge Spam with the Boss Bandit. Boss Bandit, man, one of those cards that's just so obnoxious to go against. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't believe it hasn't gotten a bigger nerf, but to be fair, I guess I don't see it as often as I used to. That being said, still a very obnoxious card to go against. And this deck that Issei is playing actually hasn't seen the light of day too much recently. I haven't played against many players playing this. That being said, I think it's still a pretty solid deck, especially in the hands of Issei, one of the best bridge spam players of all time. He does have a #1 ladder finish with P.E.K.K.A. Ram Rider, so definitely does know his stuff, and this will be one of the best matches for us to watch to see how to play against this deck, this matchup with 3.0 Xbow cycle. So Issei does also have the Lightning in this deck, and then he should have a couple more bridge spam cards. I think he should have a Barb Barrel, maybe a Royal Ghost as well. And this deck was pretty popular a few seasons back, but I, again, haven't seen too many people playing it recently. I guess it did fall off a little bit, but the pros that are the best at it still definitely playing it and making it work. So gonna be an interesting one. As far as how to play this matchup from Xbow's side, we'll definitely take a look at how Betfas handles it, but I can tell you right now that a big emphasis will be leaning on those Evo Archers. Even base Archers, to be honest, but Evo Archers as well, because Issei doesn't have a great way to kill them. He has Evo Snowball, he has Barb Barrel, and he has Lightning, so, you know, no Fireball, no arrows, no poison, so honestly, even stacking Evo Archers, a pretty great play that can be made. Right here, we will see Evo Archers come down, and some power shots come in on that Boss Bandit, which will be pretty effective. Nice protection of the Evo Archers. Evo Eggsy forced out in the right for that Expo, and Issei does have to respond to his Evo Archers. See a prediction Evo Tesla, very interesting play, and it'll actually pay off because that Bandit is completely taken out, and now Betfas, playing 4-dimensional chess, sets up for another Expo, does catch that Barb Barrel, really nicely timed E-Spirit, and that will be a huge lock. So that was a great sequence. He kind of set that up by protecting the Evo Archers really well, getting that Evo Tesla as a prediction on offense and actually making it work, and then building into an offensive push, and somehow, some way, he gets over 1,000 damage for it, so very well played. And now Issei is going to be playing from the back burner the entire time. Betfas can definitely just kind of sit back, Fireball cycle if he wants to, and Issei is going to be forced to try and make some stuff happen. Right here, going for that Eggsy at the bridge, definitely does have to do stuff like that. Nice snowball by Issei, but unfortunately does not do the trick fully. Knight will come down and taking care of both sides. Boss Bandit gets that ability off. Betfas will have to kite this Bandit into the Knight. Does so with Evo Archer Skellies. Really, really nice micro overall. And you can see Betfas hasn't made a single mistake yet. So he's really just defending well, keeping the pressure up when he needs to. Notice, guys, that you don't want to be spamming Expos constantly. Betfas has gone for, I want to say, 2 Expos total this game. or three rather. The first was just to force out the Evo Exi, the second was that punish following that Evo Tesla setup, and third was just now. All of them kind of had the right time to go for an Expo, and they were never really forced or kind of just spammed. Again, you don't want to just spam Expos, you want to go for Expos at the right time as and when it's called for. So right now, Betfas, I will say, probably just going to go for center Tesla, yeah. Not even going for the Expo again, because he just doesn't need to. He stays the one who's forced to make an offensive play right now, and as it stands, he's going to lose this game if it keeps going the way it goes. The other problem is that Issei honestly can't even get too much lightning value. I mean, if you're not up in damage as the Expo player, lightning is very annoying to go against because it's just going to do more damage than your fireballs and just be annoying to get spell cycled by. But if you're up, it's a whole different story because lightning is just 6 elixir. It's a pretty clunky spell to play. You can see Issei hasn't really had the chance to play too many lightnings, and he kind of needs to break through. Beth just gets a huge connection on the right, speaking of breakthrough, with an Evo Archer power-shotting away at the right side tower, and now trouble spelled for Issei in both lanes. I really don't think he's going to find a way to come back from this. Betfas is just kind of chilling, just doing his thing, stacking Teslas, has 3 Teslas on the board, stacked Evo Archers too, so just stacking Evos, stacking Teslas, and Issei has to make some kind of last-minute connection happen. Betfas takes the Fireball cycle on that Bandit, and it is all but over. There is not much that Issei can really do. I mean, he can get one last Lightning in over here, but Betfas will definitely not let that Bandit connect, or Boss Bandit rather, or the Ram Rider. Even with the Lightning Evo Snowball, it was just controlled, and honestly, Issei didn't stand a chance, man. He didn't break through even once the whole game, so very well played by Betfas. Beautiful control, and again, the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from that game was the Xbow timings, going in at the perfect time.